So the project, it's about adding oxygen to a red wine ferment. So why that matters in a traditional wine ferment, the yeasts are producing ethanol from the sugar, but they're also producing carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is lighter than oxygen, and so it maintains this kind of oxygen-free area in the ferment. Yeast like oxygen. If we could get oxygen into that matrix, then we can potentially give the yeast some food and mitigate the need to make costly additions to a red wine ferment that adds up over time, especially on large scale. From the beginning of the study, our goal was simply just to maintain the kind of levels that commercially winemakers would expect while giving them an easier way to go about doing their ferments. The concern is that you will potentially oxidize the wine, but we found that it didn't matter how much oxygen you add. It didn't affect the wine in that way at all. Not only did it create this healthy environment for the yeasts to continue their fermentation, but it actually added to the fruitiness of the final product. So that was a nice little bonus. I think that's been one of the most exciting parts, delivering this message to industry. Here's something that you can do in your winery that's very easy, it's very cost effective, and it's going to make your ferments healthier, and it's going to increase fruit flavor aromas. The uptake for this technique in industry has been extensive in quite a short amount of time. And really that's what we're about here at AWRI, is delivering outcomes that industry can plug into their businesses and make better products. There's definitely a sense of satisfaction and pride involved with that.
You do a project, you have your aims, and from a chemical perspective, it can be a success, but the final question is, what does the sensory look like? Because at the end of the day, that's who's going to be tasting the wines, it's people. On the oxygen project, the sensory outcomes were that the reductive and unpleasant characters were reduced significantly in the red wines. They were essentially more fruity, particularly red fruit was the character that really came through in those oxygen-treated wines. If a treatment like that can get rid of all those unpleasant reductive aromas, it's a big win.
You can do all the chemistry you want. What really matters is what's in the glass. So that element is really important.
We've seen it quite a few times where the chemistry says one thing and you give it to the panel and it says a completely different story because of the interactions and masking effects, or even just people's sensitivities. So you can't just do it in the lab, you have to be able to test it with people. Our dedicated sensory panel will break down the product to the smallest components of aromas, flavors, mouthfeel attributes, textures, and they'll rate intensity of red fruit, sourness, bitterness. They can do direct comparisons and just describing sensory characters.
And it really underpins all the work that we do here in the research group with our commercial labs and our problem-solving side of our business. And so it really is a core capability here at the AWRI.